Welcome to the SMC Promise Regain Eligibility Information Seminar. My name is Josh Casillas. I'm a student onboard specialist at the Welcome Center. Welcome Center is located at the Student Success building on the main campus at 1900 Pico Boulevard on the first floor. I am here with my colleague. If you'd like to introduce yourself, please do so at this time.
Hi there, I'm Ariana. I work at the Welcome Center as well. I'm a student worker for the Welcome Center as well as SMC Promise.
Thank you, Ariana. So we will start with a slideshow, and then if you have any questions, we'll have a chat system. You can ask your questions at the end of the slideshow. This way we can focus and answer your questions. You can type them in the chat, or you can raise your hand. We'll call on you, and you can verbally ask your questions. If you are if this is your last semester in the SMC Promise, there's no real purpose of you attending this seminar if this is your last semester. But we'll move forward from there. All right, regain eligibility, the agenda, introduction, we introduce ourselves. We're going to check how to check your SMC Promise status, program requirements, benefits, how to regain eligibility, special consideration, and then once again at the end, we'll have a Q&A, which is a question and answer session. Checking your Coursera Connect for your SMC Promise eligibility. We're checking your spring drop-down menu 2025. So this is what it looks like when you log into your SMC Coursera Connect, which is your student portal. You can access the SMC Promise on the box on the left, on the right-hand side in the gray box, and or on the left side where the index is, where the yellow arrows are pointing. This is for a student that is eligible. This is the message you received here. It gives you three indicators. One, the check, green or red. The second, eligible or incomplete or ineligible. This student is eligible. And then a verbiage on there, a message. The student is currently eligible for the SMC Promise, but still needs to meet the requirements below, and also informs them that if they don't, they're still responsible for their enrollment, which are their classes and their student fees. If you receive this, you are ineligible. This is what an ineligible looks like. This student, particular student, if you look at the yellow arrow where we're focusing on, they get the red marker, ineligible, and they fell out last fall semester. So it gives you a brief information or message there informing you that, or informing the student that they fell out last fall semester. So you can always go back to your last fall and find out why you fell out, or you can always email the Welcome Center at welcomecenter@smc.edu. SMC Promise program requirements. These are the requirements you must meet to be officially part of the SMC Promise and receive the benefits. So the first requirement is we're first looking at the student's SMC Promise status. They are eligible, but once again, it tells them they need to complete the requirements below. There's two requirements. The first one is financial aid. If you look at the yellow arrow, we're focusing in on the financial aid column. Red means they haven't met it. It states you're incomplete. Complete your FAFSA or DREAM Act application before the deadline for this spring. Requirement deadline is April 27, 2025. That must be completed. That's your first requirement. When you do complete it and the SMC financial aid receives your 2024-2025 FAFSA or DREAM Act application, it changes. Your Coursera Connect will look like this. It will say, once again, we're focused on the yellow arrow. It will say green icon check mark. It is completed. Santa Monica College has received your financial aid application. That's what it looks like when that requirement has been completed. We're going to focus on the next requirement, which is the unit requirement. That's the second requirement. We're focused on where the yellow arrow is. The column is the enrolled units. As you see, this student is not enrolled in their unit requirement. There's a red icon, which is an X mark. It says incomplete. It informs them you're currently enrolled 3 out of the required 12 units. Please enroll in the required number of units by April 27th, 2025, and complete with passing grades. April 27th for this spring semester, once again, is the requirement deadline. You must meet those two requirements to be officially part of the SMC Promise and receive the benefits. So the next screen would look, bam, this is what we're looking at. SMC Promise requirements are met. If we're focused on the yellow arrow, as you can see, the enrolled units has been completed. The student is meeting the number of units before April 27th. If you go up to the blue arrow, they get the blue badge with the SMC Promise check mark. That means you're officially meeting all the requirements. It says you're officially part of the SMC Promise. For this spring, you do not owe any fees so long as you complete your required number of units with passing grades. You also qualify for SMC Promise book voucher. This student qualifies for that, and they currently have a fee postponed until June 17, 2025. So we will go into a brief about a book voucher, but this is the messages. You always want to look at your Coursera Connect. It gives you all the information, up-to-date status, excuse me, you're up to date of your SMC Promise status. So you always want to refer to that, become familiar with it, and all the information is there. For some reason, if you don't find that it's something that is on there or you need further assistance, you can always email us at welcomecenter@smc.edu. Include your name, your SMC ID number, and then your question. Same information here. This student is part of the DSPS, or the Center for Students with Disabilities. They have a unit reduction. Their full-time requirement is 6 units. This student is meeting their 6-unit requirement and informs them, please enroll by April 27th and complete with passing grades. Once again, April 27th for this spring semester is the requirement deadline. You can look up at the blue arrow column. Once again, they're receiving the blue badge, the SMC Promise badge. That means they're meeting all the requirements. It tells them they're still eligible. And read the information. It gives the information up there. Once again, a brief overview of their status. The SMC Promise benefits. This is probably the most important slide before we go into the examples of regain eligibility. In order to receive the SMC Promise benefits, students must meet the requirements by the SMC Promise requirement deadline of April 27, 2025 for this spring semester. What happens when you complete your financial aid and you're enrolled in your unit requirement by that date? One, the most important, your current enrollment and student fees are paid for. Okay, if you don't have a fee waiver, I'll go into that in a future slide. A fee waiver pays for your enrollment fees, which is basically your classes, and you would have to pay out of student fees, right? Out of pocket. If you're meeting the requirements for SMC Promise, both your enrollment classes and your student fees are paid for. If you're enrolled in 12 units, as an example, 12 units is approximately $600. That will be paid for right away on April 27, 2025, if you're meeting the requirements, okay? You can enroll more units and we'll still pay out whatever the amount comes out to, right? But you have to meet their unit requirements. The second thing that transpires is you qualify to regain eligibility, okay? You have to meet the requirement deadline. The system automatically captures your file to regain eligibility so long as you meet the requirements and complete the regain eligibility process, which we're going to go into future slides with 2 examples. You receive a fee postponement for the current semester if you're meeting the requirements and for the future terms, right? So if you're interested in enrolling in the subsequent summer 2025 semester, you'll have a fee postponement. And then in the next fall 2025, you'll also have a fee postponement, which allows you, if you're going to drop below units to regain eligibility after the requirement deadline, then you have a fee postponement, which allows you to regain eligibility and you don't have to pay out of pocket. Keep in mind, the short-term semesters are optional to attend, but if you do attend for regain eligibility purposes, you will have to potentially pay out of pocket unless you have a fee waiver. We'll go into that in a future slide. For priority enrollment for future terms, right? We know classes fill up very quick at SMC. You speak with the academic counselor. Hopefully you have your classes lined up for the future semesters. You get a priority enrollment. You get to enroll in your classes before most students on campus, right? That's a big benefit. The last benefit that is really we accentuate on is a refund. Let's say you pay out of pocket before you became eligible for the SMC Promise or before you met the requirements, the financial aid and unit requirements. You paid out of pocket for your classes and your student fees, enrollment and student fees. And then you became eligible, or then you met the requirements. Let's say you've met the requirements and you're meeting them and you complete them by April 27th. You will potentially qualify for a refund. Whatever you paid out of pocket, we'll send you your money back, okay? Please keep in mind that you have to meet and complete your requirements. You have to complete your classes all the way to the end of the semester for your SMC Promise to roll over to the future semester, okay? You have to pass your classes with an A, B, C, D, or P for pass. Other benefits you also may receive if you're receiving if you're part of SMC Promise, you're meeting the requirements and also receiving a CCPG fee waiver, you qualify for a book voucher. It's up to $3,000 for an academic year. It's $1,000 for fall, $1,000 for spring. And then the optional semesters, if you do attend and meet the requirements, most students are not going to meet the requirements for the short-term semesters. That's why they're optional. You will qualify for 500 for the summer, 500 for winter. You get a reduced parking pass from $50 to $18 if you're also a part of SMC Promise and receiving a fee waiver, CCPG fee waiver. You get a complimentary Go Pass Metro Tap card for the current semester. And once again, if you meet these requirements and you complete them by the end of the semester, your SMC Promise eligibility rolls over to the future semesters. We talked about the CCPG, or they call it the California College Promise Grant. Let's stick to CCPG fee waiver. I'm going to go a little bit in depth about this, and the reason I'm going to tell you at the end of this slide why it's important. California College Promise Grant, or once again, we call it a CCPG fee waiver, covers enrollment fees only. It only pays for your classes, and is processed via the SMC Financial Aid Office. Qualifications based on your California residency, AB 540, government benefits, income, and or your submitted FAFSA or your DREAM Act application is reviewed by the SMC Financial Aid Office to determine if you qualify for a fee waiver. It pays for your enrollment fees. Once again, it's your classes for an entire academic year. So preferably complete your FAFSA and your DREAM Act application now for the future academic year. Future academic year is summer, fall, winter, and spring. Next summer and fall is 2025, and winter and spring 2026. It will cover you for summer, fall, winter, and spring. There's no unit or requirement for this. It's a benefit you get from the financial aid office. And once again, it covers your class fees or enrollment fees, as we call them. It does not cover or pay for your student fees. That's something you have to pay out of pocket. Once again, the SMC Promise is not dependent on financial aid need. It covers for you up for your enrollment and student fees if you're meeting the requirements for potentially up to 2 years. And the reason we're covering the CCPG fee waiver is if you do decide to attend the short-term semesters like summer or winter, most students are not going to qualify for the SMC Promise benefits because you're not going to be able to enroll in 12 units in the short-term semesters. And or if you fall out of the SMC Promise because you didn't complete your requirements, or you're attempting to regain eligibility, or you didn't pass a couple of your classes, and you decide to attend the short-term semesters, if you have a fee waiver, that'll at least pay for your classes. You will have to pay out of pocket for your student fees and your books, material, and supplies. It's really important. CCPG fee waiver. If you're looking at your Coursera Connect, this is how you determine if you have a SMC Promise book voucher. First, we're looking at the arrow, the column with the blue arrow. The badge means you're meeting all the requirements for SMC Promise. You're eligible, and it gives you the spiel in there, so to speak, that you qualify for a book voucher on your overview there, okay? And the way you find this out is you have to be meeting the SMC Promise requirements. If you scroll down to the bottom of that same screen on your Coursera Connect SMC Promise status, it tells you that the SMC Promise book voucher, you qualify for SMC Promise book voucher at the SMC bookstore during the following period. It gives you the start date and the end date. And you want to use your SMC Promise book voucher. You can use it online, okay? You cannot order materials and supplies online, only books. If you want to get your material and supplies, you have to go in person. You can also go in person. They're on the main campus at the Santa Monica 1900 Pico Boulevard. Santa Monica bookstore is on the main campus. Those are the dates you can use your book voucher. If for some reason you paid out of pocket and you qualify for a book voucher, you qualify for a refund during those dates for this spring semester, February 3rd to May 2nd, so you can get your a refund for the books, material, supplies. If so long as you bought them at the SMC bookstore and you have your receipts, contact the bookstore directly to find out about a refund. All right, how to regain eligibility. SMC Promise requirement deadline for the spring is April 27, 2025. Once again, that's an important date. You have to meet both of your requirements, financial aid, and your enrollment date to qualify to regain eligibility. And we're going to go into two examples of how that works. The basics of regain eligibility. Students can make up the units during the subsequent short-term semester 2025. we're talking about the spring, so it's going to be summer 2025 semester, and potentially regain eligibility for the future fall 2025 semester if they meet the SMC Promise requirements by the requirement deadline of April 27, 2025, and then drop below the units. Okay, that's the key. It's highly recommend you speak with an academic counselor at any time you're going to add or drop classes. For the SMC Promise regain eligibility purposes, to qualify for a regain eligibility, you have to drop after the requirement deadline. Many classes are full-term classes. If you drop after requirement deadline, you will still receive a W, which is an honorable withdrawal. There are some short-term classes where you would drop and you still may get a letter grade, but that's for you to determine and when you speak with your academic counselor, okay? You drop after the SMC Promise requirement deadline. They attempt their unit requirement and did not complete their classes with passing grades A, B, C, D, or P for pass. Okay, A, B, C, D, or P for pass are passing grades. If you didn't one of your classes or two of your classes, you didn't receive a passing grade, then you potentially qualify to regain eligibility, but you have to drop your classes, or at the end of the semester, you get a grade and you find out you didn't pass those. Okay, you do not need to make up the same classes. You only need to make up the same number of units to meet your unit requirement. Let's go into, this is what it looks like. So this student here is for a previous semester. If we're looking at the yellow arrow, excuse me, they're eligible, okay? If it says eligible on your SMC Promise eligibility after the requirement deadline, that means you've met both requirements. This student met the requirements at the requirement deadline for this past fall semester, but is now dropped below the units, as you can see where it says incomplete, but they qualify to regain eligibility. So long as it stays on there, says eligible, they qualify to regain eligibility. That means they dropped after the requirement deadline, okay? The next slide is for a student, and once again, we're looking at their Coursera Connects SMC Promise eligibility. This student is ineligible because they dropped or they were not meeting their unit requirement by the requirement deadline. Once again, this example is for last fall, and it gives you a brief explanation there on your eligibility section. And at the bottom, you can see it says incomplete. Unfortunately, you did not meet the unit requirements by the requirement deadline for last fall, and it gives the date there. That's what you're going to look for, but ultimately, just meet the requirement by the requirement deadlines, or the requirements, excuse me, financial aid units. So let's look at an example. Example number 1. The student is enrolled in 12 units for the spring 2025 semester and needs to drop a 3-unit class. They immediately speak with an academic counselor and decide to drop the class after the April 27th SMC Promise requirement deadline. Since they dropped the class after the deadline, they will potentially receive a W, letter grade, which is honorable withdrawal, or a letter grade on their academic transcript. At the end of the semester, the student completes 9 out of 12 units with passing grades. Once again, A, B, C, D, or P is a passing grade. They completed 9 units for the spring semester, okay? The student enrolls in 3-unit class of their choosing in the summer 2025 semester, right? And you can enroll in your classes. Enrollment's coming up here soon. You can enroll for your classes soon for summer and fall. So this student enrolled in summer 2025 and a 3-unit class and completes it with a passing grade. Once their summer grade is posted with a passing grade on their transcript, the student would automatically regain eligibility for the fall 2025 semester. The system automatically processes that for the student. You just have to do your part, right? You just have to make up the units in the short-term summer 2025 semester. Once again, you will have to pay out of pocket for your summer 2025 classes. If you have a CCPG fee waiver, that will at least pay for your enrollment fees or class fees. Once you meet this in this example, a confirmation email will be sent to the student's SMC email. This is what it will look like. If you regain eligibility, you'll get an automatic email say, hey, congratulations, successfully completed your summer 2025 25 courses. This compliment has allowed you to regain eligibility for the future fall 2025 for the SMC Promise, right? This is the second example, okay? The student has it's the same example, except this student has a unit reduction or an RCL, which is called, which stands for a reduced course load. They are part of the DSPS program. They're also located on the Student Success Building main campus, 1900 Pico Boulevard, on the first floor. They are enrolled in 6 units, which is their full time, in the spring 2025 semester and need to drop a 3-unit class. They immediately speak with their DSPS counselor and decide to drop the class after the April 27, 2025 SMC Promise requirement deadline. Since they dropped the class after the deadline, they will potentially receive a letter grade or a W on their transcript. That's one thing you need to discuss with your academic counselor or your DSPS counselor, or if you're part of any other special program, you need to discuss with that counselor. At the end of the semester, the student completes 3 out of 6 units with passing grades. Okay, that's what we're looking at for this student. The student enrolls in any 3-unit class of their choosing in the summer 2025 semester and then completes it with a passing grade. Once their summer grade is posted on their transcript with passing grade or grades, the student would automatically regain eligibility for the future fall 2025 semester. And once again, when that transpires, you get that automatic email to your SMC email account saying, congratulations, you regained eligibility. That's what we're looking at for this student. Okay. However, if a student does not pass their subsequent summer 2025 classes when they're attempting regain eligibility and decides not to make or decides not to make up the units altogether, they will fall out of status and lose their eligibility to receive the benefits of the SMC Promise for the future semesters. Once again, it says it does say there that will not be able to participate in SMC Promise for future semesters and will be held responsible for the enrollment and student fees moving forward. A confirmation email will also be sent to their SMC student email, and this is what it will look like here. So, dear student, our records indicate that you attempted to regain eligibility. You did not meet it, so you're no longer part of the SMC Promise. So that's all automatically done, okay? And that's the way, if you follow the process and the requirements and you complete it all, it's automatically done, and it makes it really easy for everybody involved, okay? This is your other option. If you, for some reason, fall out of all those scenarios, the regain eligibility scenarios, the 2 examples, they're pretty straightforward and simple. Meet your unit requirement, meet your financial aid by April 27th. After that date, you drop, make up the units in the subsequent summer 2025 semester. When you make them up, you regain eligibility. That's how regain eligibility works, period. Okay? If there's any scenario outside of the examples, this is how we approach it. We call it an SMC Promise Special Consideration. Is it a little bit lengthier process? It's all done manually, but we really take the human approach and we really help our students retain SMC Promise. We review files to help them, once again, retain SMC Promise eligibility and status. Let's go into that. The SMC Promise Special Consideration is a review process to potentially gain eligibility for students who are no longer eligible. They have an ineligible status. When you log on to your Coursera Connect, as I showed in the previous slide, it will say ineligible. It'll show the red X mark, ineligible, and then it'll tell you your status. You're no longer eligible for SMC Promise, and it'll give you the reason why. You did not complete the SMC requirement deadline, SMC Promise requirement deadline. So let's say we may have some students here that are not enrolled in their unit requirement. Let's say they're eligible, they met their financial aid, but they're enrolled in 9 out of the 12 unit requirement for them. This student can, at this point, probably no longer find any 3-unit class to add this late in the semester, a short-term class. So they're going to send an email to us, welcomecenter@smc.edu, for any of these scenarios and request a special consideration, okay? So you did not meet the SMC Promise requirements at the requirement deadline. You attempt to regain eligibility. You did one of the examples. I did not recover your SMC Promise, okay? Let's say as the example, however example slide that we've discussed, let's say the student attempted to regain eligibility but did not pass the short-term class that they were attempting to make up the units in. This student can also send an email, welcomecenter@smc.edu, say, hey, my SMC ID number is, this is what's going on with my file. Or the last is you have an extenuating circumstances. We get this one a great deal of. There's certain things that are out of your power, right? Life happens. Once again, we like to take the human approach and we like to help students retain their eligibility and or we review their file to give them eligibility via the special consideration process. I'm going to give you a quick example. Let's say I'm a student, I'm enrolled in 12 units, right? And I find out my mother has taken a reduction in hours at her work. I have a part-time job. I have to take extra hours at my part-time job to help facilitate the income because my mom is not making enough money to help with the household. So I have to drop to 9 units. I speak with an academic counselor. I weigh all the benefits and all the negatives of it. I drop before the requirement deadline, and I'm gonna fall out of SMC Promise. The drawback is also I'm gonna have to pay for this current semester fees, right? So I sent an email to the Welcome Center, say, hey, my name is Josh Casillas. My student ID number is this. This is what transpired. Um, when you do an SMC Promise special consideration email, just do it once. We'll keep the same thread. We review and we add and we respond to that thread. Don't start new threads. It gets kind of confusing. There's multiple people that respond to these emails. So in my scenario, I send that email. It's being reviewed. It gets reviewed. I'm given options. This is what you need to do to gain eligibility for the future semester for SMC Promise. This is what you have to do. You will give you directions on how to get back in, and or we'll tell you, hey, unfortunately, we cannot get you back in. Try, keep applying for financial aid and scholarships. Try these other programs, but that's really rare. We do review a high volumes of SMC Promise special considerations. We take each one on a case-by-case basis. Not each one is the same. And we do review them, and we always give students the benefit of the doubt if they're making progress and attempting to get ahead and complete their academic and personal goals. As it states on there, it is not guaranteed that you will gain your SMC Promise eligibility, but your file will be reviewed to potentially get you back in. Okay. Once again, the email for the Welcome Center is there, welcomecenter@smc.edu. You can request a special consideration. You can put that in the subject line, and we go from there. Please include your name, your complete name, and your SMC ID number. This is for a student. If they log into the Coursera Connect, this is for a student for this current semester. Let's say this is me. I'm looking at this. I'm ineligible for the spring 2025 semester. Once again, I'm looking at the yellow arrow area there, the overall eligibility. I didn't complete the requirements last fall, 2024. And it gives me the information to contact the Welcome Center. This is what you would see if you qualify for special consideration. You're going to get an ineligible message there. Then you know to send an email to Welcome Center and request a special consideration. This is our contact information. I'm sure Ari has been posting it on the chat. This is our contact email and phone number and our websites. Our websites have all our information. They have our dates, deadlines, requirement deadlines, future deadlines for the future semesters, book voucher information, book voucher deadlines. We have all our videos there. If you missed this video or you want to catch up on something or review it, you can go on there. We have those. We have our regain eligibility examples with dates on there for this spring. We have all our information on our website. These are our links and information there. Once I do want to say, please be sure if you're unsure, if you're unaware what your status is, or you really want to know what's going on with your file, you just don't know how to navigate the Coursera Connect. All your information is on your Coursera Connect, on your for SMC Promise. It's all there. Also, everything else, you can check your transcripts there, you can check your financial aid. But right now, we're focusing on SMC Promise. It's all there. For some reason, if you have a question, do not hesitate. Be proactive. Send us an email with your information. Once again, your complete name and your ID number. We'll look into your file, and what we do is we send you screenshots of your actual Coursera Connect SMC Promise page, so you know what to look at. And we highlight the areas that you should focus on. So we actually use your Coursera Connect first to find out what your status is. We use that what you're looking at the same time. Be proactive is what my point is. Don't hesitate. Be proactive. Inquire and send us emails or phone calls. Good luck, SMC Promise students, from the SMC Promise team. And now I'm going to stop sharing screen, and this is for our question and answer session. Now is the time you get to ask your questions. Do we have any questions in the chat already? Oh boy. Okay, we do have questions in the chat. Is that correct, Ari? We do.
There was a
Well,
question about
mhm.
a student said, I paid for my winter semester out of pocket, but I have
Mhm.
the SMC Promise. Would it be the same for the summer semester?
So it is going to be the same, right? Unless you have a CCPG fee waiver, that will at least pay for your enrollment fees, which is your classes. The SMC Promise benefits will only pay for your fees, your enrollment fees and student fees if you're meeting the requirements. If you go ahead and log on to your Coursera Connect and go under SMC Promise, go to the drop down window for winter, last winter 2025 semester, is going to tell you what requirement you are missing. I'm going to assume that your unit requirement is 12 units. If you did not enroll in 12 units in the summer 2025 semester, that's probably why you had to pay out of pocket. Once again, most students are not going to qualify for the benefits for the optional short-term summer and winter semesters. The students that will qualify for those are going to be students that have a unit reduction, whereas example, 6 units is going to be their full-time requirement and they enroll in 6 units, and the maximum amount of units you can enroll in the short-term semesters is 8 units. So you're not going to be able to enroll in 12, but somebody who has a unit reduction will qualify for the benefits of that short-term semesters. Any other questions you'd like to read out there for me? If you can, I'm not sure where you left
A
off.
student said, just to reiterate, if during the fall 2024 I decided to drop a class, putting me under 12 units, but I took the same class during the winter, putting me above 12 credits, my SMC Promise eligibility for the 2024 semester, is it safe? Is what they're asking.
So
So are they
last
still
last last fall in the scenario that you gave me, I'm sorry, Ari, I got so excited as you can tell.
okay, so they in fall 2024 it says they fell below 12 units, but then during wintertime they took the same class, so they end up being above 12 units. They're wondering if they're still safe, meaning are they still eligible?
No. If you go and you log on to your Coursera Connect SMC Promise, for the last fall semester, if you drop below your unit requirement before the requirement deadline, last fall was October 27th. Let's say you were enrolled in 12 units, you dropped to 9 units before October 27th for the fall, right? After October 27th, you are no longer eligible for the SMC Promise. You're no longer part of SMC Promise. Even if you make up the 3 units in the subsequent winter, let's say you made up those 3 units, now you're in 12 units or you have more than 12 units, you don't qualify to regain eligibility because you did not meet the requirements of the requirement deadline. Regain eligibility is automatic. You have to meet the requirements of the requirement deadline, then you drop below units, make them up in the subsequent short-term semester, then you regain eligibility. That is all automatic. In your case, you would have to request a special consideration. You have to send an email. I recommend, if anybody else is in this scenario, send an email right away to the Welcome Center, include your name, your SMC ID number. Tell us what transpired. We're going to look at your file because we can potentially still get you into the spring. In your example, if you did complete 9 units and then 12 units, you didn't, because you didn't meet the requirement deadline, you don't qualify to regain eligibility automatically. We can potentially get you back in reviewing your file via special consideration, but we have to process that before April 27th. Once that for this semester, we can try to get you in back this spring semester, but we have to do it before April 27th. After that date, we can no longer do anything else. Send an email ASAP. We can look at your file. Once again, Welcome Center at smc.edu. Include your ID name, the ID and your name. Excuse me. Ari, where'd you leave off, my
That's
friend?
about it. Those are all the questions that
Let
I haven't already answered.
Okay, there's a question here. I'm going to try to say your name. Hopefully, I don't mess it up too bad. Arshia, go
Yeah,
ahead.
you got it.
All right, cool. Go ahead and ask your
So
question.
my question was kind of a clarifying question on what you just answered, actually.
Mhm.
When it comes to regaining eligibility. So, like my current situation is that I'm eligible for this spring semester right now. However, I'm only enrolled in 10 out of 12 units, so I wouldn't be eligible for the next period of the SMC Promise. However, I was speaking to a counselor and I was informed of the whole thing with regaining eligibility in the summer, but I wasn't really aware of the whole April 27th deadline. So I'm assuming that would mean that's a special consideration case. And about that, would I send an email after the 27th deadline or can I send it as soon as possible?
I'm great. Great question. Hopefully you understand it now with the seminar that you do have to meet the requirement deadline. So the drawback is you're not going to qualify to regain eligibility. Sounds like you know that. The other drawback is you may have to pay you may have to pay for, well, you're going to have to pay for fees for this semester if you haven't done so already. I'm not sure if you have a CCPG fee waiver, which will at least cover your enrollment fees. You are going to request SMC Promise special consideration. You can do it now. Start the email thread. In your scenario, the way we approach it is you send your name, your ID number. We look at your file, we confirm it. We look at your previous academic transcript from SMC, your history. And then what we do is we'll ask you, okay, you're going to fall out of SMC Promise because you're 10 out of 12 for this semester. That's going to be an automatic thing unless you somehow miraculously find a 2-unit short-term class that started this week and you get 12 units. Let's say that doesn't happen. So you're going to request a special consideration. You'll get instructions will be similar to this. You'll be told, okay, you're going to fall out for this spring semester. We can potentially get you gain eligibility for the future fall 2025 semester, but we're going to ask you to make up 2 units in this summer semester. Keep in mind this summer semester, you will have to pay out of pocket. When you enroll in your 2 units for the summer, you will also enroll for fall. We're going to ask you to enroll in 12 units for the fall 2025 semester, and then reply to the email once you're enrolled in summer and fall. And then after that, we'll give you a different date. We'll say by this date, we're going to review your file, and then we're going to tell you whether we accept you or not. Most likely, based on what you're saying, don't quote me, but if you passing your classes, you're getting good grades, most likely is we potentially will get you back in, or you'll gain eligibility for the future fall 2025 semester if you follow those instructions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Great question. Great question.
I have another question. Someone said in Coursera it says I'm ineligible for fall 2025, even though I submitted my financial aid and they're a full-time student and met the other requirements. What should I do?
Great question. So your eligibility has not rolled. If you're currently eligible for this spring right now, your eligibility, everybody, nobody's eligibility has rolled over for the future fall 2025 semester yet. Okay. That's going to transpire after April 27th. Okay. Because we're going to find out who met the requirements this spring semester. And then that's also going to transpire when you start enrolling for the future fall 2025 semester. Okay. So right now the eligibility is not set for the future summer and fall 2025 semester. That's just the way the program is set up. But you really want to check is your current eligibility for the spring 2025 semester. Okay. If you're eligible for the spring semester and you're meeting the requirements, both financial aid and unit, you should be golden. Okay. Hopefully that answered your question. If not, please feel free to chat in the system and ask the question.
Another student said, will you guys be on campus so I could speak to you individually?
Absolutely. My friend Ari here is on campus now. And then we have our other co-worker or colleague who is on vacation right now. Her name is Adrian. We call her AJ. She knows all about SMC Promise. She actually sits right behind Ari here, where she's located on her desk on the video. She's great. She knows all the answers to SMC Promise. You can go in there Monday through Thursday and she is there. And then any other questions you want to email or phone call, I usually respond to those. And we're always available. Be proactive. One thing we want to give ourselves kudos on is that we respond to our emails and phone calls fairly quickly. Okay, our turnaround is usually one business day, but you have to give us ultimately 3 to 5 business days, or sometimes we get inundated with high volumes of inquiries, so we change it to 5 to 7 business days. But always reach out. We're really responsive when it comes to helping our student population, SMC Promise, and other student population.
Last question was, if a student qualifies for a reduced course load, can they take a full course load and have it paid by SMC Promise?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So your unit requirement, let's say your unit requirement is 6 units. You can take up to as many units as you decide you want to take. It's always highly recommended you speak with your academic counselor. May not be advised that if your unit requirement is 6 units, that you enroll in 16 units or 15 units, right? As an example. But yes, SMC Promise will pay as many units as you want to enroll in, so long as you meet and complete the requirements and you pass your classes with passing grades. Okay? Hopefully that answers your question. Let me give you one other example. Let's say my unit requirement is 12 units, but I decided to enroll in 15 units the way my schedule worked out. SMC Promise, so long as I'm meeting the requirements and complete the requirements with passing grades, the units with passing grades, SMC Promise will pay for my entire 15 units. Hopefully that answers your question. You're welcome. Great questions, everybody. Now's a great time if you want to ask questions. It makes it a lot easier than writing back and forth or doing phone calls. You have us at our you have us at your disposal to ask any questions, and we can answer them right away. Hopefully this seminar has been informative for everybody, and it does sound like, based on a couple of the questions we got, that you all are picking it up on how SMC Promise is structured. It is the most complex program on campus, but it seems like you all are really getting to know how it's structured and are asking great questions. So we'll leave it open about a couple more minutes to see if there's any more questions to be asked. Once again, we're at your disposal. Sometimes it's easier just to answer questions on these seminars than go back and forth on emails. Well, it sounds like everybody's logging off, and I don't think we're going to have any more questions. So this will end our SMC Promise Regain Eligibility Seminar for this spring 2025 semester. Thank you for attending. We appreciate. Feel free to reach out. You're welcome, Daniel. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Do not ever hesitate. My name is Josh Casillas for Ari Sanchez McCall. Thank you for attending with us, and have a great afternoon and a blessed week. It was really helpful. Love that comment. You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good one.